My favorite quote that people are throwing around is, you won't lose your job to AI, you're going to lose your job to somebody using AI. And I think that's totally true.
In an ever-changing world, campaigns are all about collaboration and connection. From an initial brief to the follow-through, what paths are going to make a campaign's success more than a possibility? Hi, I'm your host, Brett Marchand, CEO of Plus Company. Except I'm not actually Brett. I'm an AI-generated version of his voice. And this is Partners in Possibility. Today on the show, we're talking all about artificial intelligence, how it's transforming the marketing landscape, and what agencies and brands need to know in order to keep up with these rapidly evolving technologies. To help us dive into and explore the new role of AI in marketing, real-life Brett Marchand speaks with Jeff MacDonald and Jason Harris. Jason is the co-founder and CEO of the award-winning creative agency Mekanism and host of the Soul and Science podcast. Jeff is an AI thought leader and the director of social strategy at Mekanism. He's been named one to watch in this space by Ad Age. Today, in part one of our two-part exploration of the role of AI in marketing, we'll talk about why AI is such a big thing right now and how ChatGPT made generative AI something anyone could use. We'll talk about how marketers should be using AI to work not only faster, but smarter, and we'll discuss whether or not AI is coming for your job. Here is that conversation with Jason and Jeff.
So what did you all think about that voice? Did it sound lifelike enough for you?
It's pretty lifelike. I mean,
it's close enough.
Well, I mean, as is with all of us, we never really know what our own voices sound like, but I don't know. So you guys are probably a better judge. Does it sound like me?
I think that there's some like cadence things I notice when I hear AI generated audio that makes it seem like it's not a human, but I think it's close enough for a lot of uses. And so I think that's really exciting to start seeing like the opportunities for us being able to create scratch videos for commercials or things like that. It gives us those opportunities, but I definitely still think that there's ways that when we're speaking, we add emphasis and we put in emotion that I think isn't there yet. But I think it is only a matter of time for you to be able to select copy inside of one of these tools and then be able on a drop down to select something like that.
Well, welcome, Jeff and Jason. I'm really excited about this episode. It's our 5th episode of Partners in Possibility, but it's maybe the most precedent discussion that we're going to have given the AI revolution and what's going on right now. I mean, it's on everyone's minds. Maybe we start there. Jeff, why do you think it's so here and now, and what's really driven it to this point in the world and in society and on people's minds?
Yeah, we've had AI for a number of years in different business applications. The algorithms that you see, that's a version of artificial intelligence. It's trying to feed you content that it thinks you want to see to keep you on platforms. What has really changed is in generative AI, the tools, the capabilities are now democratized. Like you said, its ability for anyone to jump in and create something instantaneously that they didn't think was possible in the past makes it so that people can really start to wrap their heads around what AI's possibilities are. The ability for people to put in any input and any data source and be able to see it analyzed in real time. That's also from a business perspective what has driven a lot of attractiveness. The ability for AI now to create images that look lifelike. Eventually video will get there as well. I think that also the tools and the technology have just caught up and the user experience is friendly enough. ChatGPT just looks like you're having a text message with a friend.
Yeah.
That has made it so everyone can get in.
And we saw generative AI like much earlier on with things like Google's email platform, right? Which would make a suggestion on how to respond to an email. I mean, I think that was one of the first real versions of generative AI that people were using on a daily basis. Am I right about that?
That any kind of text prediction, anytime you had an autocomplete happening, that was it making an inference about what you thought you wanted the next word and the next letters to be in a sentence. And so we've been a part of that. Adobe had Adobe Sensei with their Adobe Photoshop applications that allowed you to put different filters on. You could turn a photo from summer to winter. So we've had these generative opportunities, but it's only now that it really feels like it's photorealistic for image, for text. It's accurate enough, or makes it feel like it's accurate enough that it feels useful. And then video is kind of, and audio obviously is kind of that next space.
It's interesting because I think there was the ChatGPT sort of moment, but the other moment was when this song came out from Drake and The Weeknd, which wasn't actually Drake and The Weeknd, but it sounded so much like them, and obviously got a huge amount of downloads and stuff. And I mean, Jason, I'm interested in your point of view on, have you and Mekanism seen it coming for a long time? I'm interested in your point of view as a CEO of an agency.
Certainly researched it and thought about it and knew it was coming, but I think really the speed and adoption of ChatGPT is unlike anything we've ever seen. The fastest platform to 100 million users, just the speed. And I think what makes it really different and why it really has become democratized now is what Jeff mentioned. It's easy enough. I mean, my parents are using it. It's that easy that if you know how to text on a phone, you can use Chat GPT, and obviously you can read articles and become intermediate level by figuring out the questions to ask and the prompts. But it really, for things to reach critical mass and have that rate of adoption, they have to have a simple, clean, easy interface, which is really what Chat GPT allowed to happen. And it felt like it was overnight, even though it took years and years, obviously, to build. So that's really where we are in the revolution, is that it's reached critical mass. And then, of course, Midjourney is also fairly simple to use. And I think the difference when I always think about it compared to, what's happening with, crypto and, when Coinbase came out, everyone started to understand how they can start to purchase crypto, because it really takes that one platform that is simple and easy that anyone can understand. That's when the critical mass and adoption happens. And that's really what happened with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the Drake example in particular, like, I think what people noticed is they were like, you know what? And this is a common theme with all of these. It's good enough. It's close enough. It sounds close enough to the actual song that I could be fooled, is a negative term to use for it, but convinced that it is the correct thing. And I think that's a great example of where we are right now in the technology. It's convincing.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Jason, what do you think are the biggest opportunities, both for marketers and for agencies in with this AI revolution and with the kind of tools like Midjourney and ChatGPT and many of the others that are out there?
There's so much to explore. What are the current opportunities? What are the future opportunities? And I think the current opportunities are really in assisting creatives in terms of, AI has become the new blank page, right? So you're not starting, you get a kickstart in your, walking or shower concepting where, it speeds things up. So,
Yeah.
It's not good enough that you're using it, but it's good enough that, it cracks writer's block or art director's block. It gives you something to push off of. And so that's the current real use, is that it's, a place to start. And that's really, I think, the current benefit is in the creative area. Also in the production area, it's been very useful for us in speeding up production times, because you can, we did a spot for Kraken that
Kraken Rum, yeah.
Kraken Rum, which is one of our clients. And when we were thinking about storyboards or doing production casting or wardrobe, those tools really helped us speed up what we were looking for, which helped us ultimately in casting and the production. It hasn't impacted the end production yet, but it helps us speed up the prep time. And so it's really been useful, really, in creative and production thus far, really internally, but no assets that we're using yet externally.
you used Midjourney, I think, right, to actually show what the casting would look like in costume, et cetera, to the clients so that you could then approve it, do it much more quickly, I believe, and then actually go out and do the actual shoot, right?
Yeah, we use Midjourney for the conceptual design. We're gonna cast people like this. They're gonna be wearing this type of wardrobe.
Right.
Where that would have taken either actual wardrobe prep and going, taking pictures in person to stylize the cast, or days and days of hunting for the perfect swipe to show that. But that it cut it down to a day versus a week,
Right.
For example. So that's how we used it in pre-production.
Something to consider for your next video shoot. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, even more opportunities for using AI to improve your marketing process and whether or not AI is coming for your job. Welcome back to Partners in Possibility. I'm Brett Marchand. Whether or not you realize it, AI is already impacting your life. Jason Harris and Jeff MacDonald are using AI in quite a few interesting ways at their creative agency Mekanism. Here is Jeff.
I always get the question, how is Mekanism using AI? And a lot of the times my answer is in ways that you'll never see. A lot of the times when we're using AI on the strategy side or the performance analytics side, we're using it as a back-end tool to help make our brief stronger so we can question our own thoughts better. We're using it in a way to analyze data faster. Humans, and I'll speak more to this, I'm sure, but humans are not great at looking at large data sets and making inferences very quickly.
That's right.
We take a lot of time to be trained on that data to look through a 1,000-line spreadsheet and get to a specific idea. But computers are really good at that. They're really good at analyzing really large amounts of data. And so one of the things that we're trying to do inside of our agency, inside of Plus Company, is look for opportunities where AI can be better at doing computer things and allow us to have more opportunities for humans to do the things that humans are good at, like presenting.
Yeah, I mean, you co-authored a really interesting article, Jeff, which was about how should board directors look at AI and the opportunity. And I thought that was really fascinating. I passed it on to my board because you talked not just about communication and images and text, but also how do you use it to benchmark your competition? How do you use it to get ideas about how to differentiate your product or your company versus your competitors? How do you use it to summarize financial results really quickly? So I thought, we should maybe put a link into that article for our listeners, because I think it was super interesting. And again, I thought very thoughtful. One of the other things I think on the agency marketer side, which I'd be interested in your comments on, is that, I mean, obviously what the internet and then social media, add all the apps that are on, and mobile on phones and combine that with what data can do to customize messaging for consumers is put an immense amount of pressure on the amount of content that we have to produce and that marketers have to produce, right? I mean, listen, I was a marketer in the 90s, and if you did 20 things in a quarter, that was a lot. Now people are doing 20 things a minute, if they're good marketers. So I presume that's the other real benefit of AI here, which is to allow that a level of content production and reaching out and customizing for the end consumer or viewer without spending so much time doing that you forget about big ideas and how to get the strategy right, as you said, Jeff, et cetera.
In terms of like versioning?
Yeah, versioning, I guess, would be one part of that for sure. And there's versioning, customizing it, I think, for the end consumer, but there's also versioning because there's so many different platforms that you have to produce content on, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that cadence in particular, like you're speaking to, that's what we deal with every single day with our clients, is this influx of everything has to be a video. Everything has to be a tweet in real time. We need 365 days of content constantly on. And I think AI only enables us to make it so that we're producing the best kind of work at that scale.
Right.
It allows us to really scale that work because we can go into a tool like Photoshop and use its generative fill function to be able to all of a sudden put our client's product on top of a hill because we want to do something around summer, the kickoff to summer. And we don't have to worry about, oh, well, we can't do that because we don't have that asset. We didn't capture it. Similarly to volume of tweets, like we can go and we can train an algorithm on 300 of our top performing tweets, and it can help us write the next 300 top performing tweets so we can keep that volume.
Let's talk about some of the opportunities, but also what does this mean for our people, for marketers in general? Because there's obviously a lot of people talking about, well, just, jobs are going to go away. This is, a real threat to copywriters, as an example. No, nobody's going to need copywriters anymore, which I don't agree with. But let's just start maybe more macro. How do you see AI changing jobs when it comes to both the agency and the marketing and client side of the world?
One thing that it's opening up, and Jeff's a good example, is anyone in the creative services space, you need someone who is an expert like Jeff at Mekanism that is the go-to person when you have questions, or can train the entire staff on how to use those tools. So that's created a new job that didn't exist before, and that's one way where it's changed. In terms of replacing jobs, I'm always optimistic, so I don't think it's going to replace copywriters or, art directors. For one reason, there's so many uncertain copyright issues with it, right? And so if you're putting something out there that's used to sell an idea before you create the idea, that's totally fine. If you put something out there that is up for grabs on how it was created, it creates a lot of liabilities and legal issues on the ownership of that. And it's okay to put a song out by Drake if it's not creating revenue, right? If it's not driving money, if there's no monetary capitalistic end goal, that's fine. If you're doing it on the benefit of a brand or product that's presumably selling something and benefiting from it, that becomes a whole other area. So I think it's really going to change jobs in that you need experts at the company, and you need to hire people that are trained in how to use the tools so that they can work faster, do more ideas, work with presenting those ideas to clients. So I think that it's changed in that you have to be skilled in AI. That's the immediate change that I see.
If we get to a point where AI gets us away from computers an hour a day because we're a little bit more efficient with our work, that's a win. That's just like my overarching theme about how AI can help humanity.
Yeah, very good point.
And to how it will actually impact employers and hiring practices and who should be concerned about their jobs. I think if you're the type of person that doesn't like to accept new technologies as part of your role, then you should be concerned.
Right.
But if you have an open mindset, if you're curious, if you like learning new things and new technologies, then you have nothing to worry about. And you will only be more efficient at your work. You will only be able to optimize your work better as these technologies start to come online and as companies start to figure out ways that they can implement them correctly and ethically. Then I don't think anyone should be concerned. My favorite quote that people are throwing around is, you won't lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody using AI. And I think that's totally true. With the copywriter example, when you're a copywriter as a profession, you have that taste. You have that innate ability to see something in front of you and know that's good. And I don't know if computers know something is good. They just know that it was selected over 51% of the time as the correct answer.
Right.
And it doesn't understand why. It just knows mathematically that's what it should choose. And I think that humans have that co-authoring capability alongside AI to make it better, to make it so that we can still enact the soul side behind what's going on in the AI. And I think that's super important. The taste that we have as professionals in the role that we do every day is always going to outperform what a computer can do.
Yeah, we even have, I know of some examples within our own agencies, which I think is a good example of how it actually empowers someone like a copywriter, to do more effective work. Like our citizen group is using AI right now to actually write posts for clients on places like LinkedIn that's based on what is, in the internet right now, what's in news right now, and what's relevant to that client and or their products. And it does the first draft basically, but then you need a writer to actually look at that draft and say, well, listen, like it really doesn't help that client stand out or have a point of view that's truly consistent with what their brand or their voice is right now, because it's just, used what's most interesting on the internet. But they can produce 10 times more posts for clients using AI than if they're having to write from scratch every single one of those. And it's much more timely, back to your earlier point, Jeff, because they can all be done by 9 o'clock in the morning and ready to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's right. Where you're going with it is it's faster, it saves time, and you can do more volume with it. So you can do more work for clients. You can take on potentially more clients because it speeds it up and saves time. But it still needs to be, there still needs to be the humanity that makes it ownable and creative.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, it's just, it's just words strung together.
Right.
You become more of copywriters become a little bit more of editors. They're still originators, but they're also become really good editors.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much of what we do a lot of the times when we're working on technical clients is going through large PDFs or Excel spreadsheets of data to find the story. And I think that AI is a perfect example that gets us, like we were saying, from that blank page to the story faster. Why not take a 500-page PDF on the future of augmented reality and turn it into something that you can ask questions of? And there's so many of these tools that exist right now where you upload a PDF or a large data set and you now start having a conversation with that document. You could say, hey, based on these 500 pages about augmented reality, give me 5 cool LinkedIn quizzes. And my audience is this. There's so many cool opportunities to make it so that you can be more proficient with your work, so that you can create more engaging work. You still have that taste. You still know what good work looks like. So you're still curating it, but it gets you to something a little faster. And it makes it so you're not reading a 500-page PDF.
Could be very empowering for younger generations as well, right? Because, historically experience, which had a lot to do with knowledge, which you have, consumed over time, gave you an advantage as an older executive, as an example. But in this case, you could actually, younger generations can actually move up the learning curve much quicker because they don't have to know all of that stuff. They can ask ChatGPT for some help to get started. So I think it's super. I mean, I have a 22-year-old son. And I said to him exactly what you said, Jeff, which is, like, you better be ready to use AI because it could be a huge advantage for you. And if you don't, I suspect that it's going to be a tough slogging for a 22-year-old in the world right now. So I think it could be super interesting for younger generations, and we need them. Like they're not just our future, but they're actually the ones who are probably going to help us solve climate change and and racial diversity issues and a bunch of other things that are out there in the marketplace, right? And in the world. That was part 1 of my discussion with Jason Harris, co-founder and CEO of Mekanism and director of social strategy, Jeff MacDonald. Join us next week for part 2, where we discuss the future of AI, how to establish trust, and where intellectual property law enters the equation. Thank you for listening to Partners in Possibility. I hope you gain valuable insights and inspiration for your next collaboration.